In this presentation, we will discuss and introduce the adjustments for adjusted gross income. When thinking about our tax equation, then we're on the second line. You'll recall the first line was the income, what's going to be included in income. Then we have our deductions or adjustments to income. You may hear these termed above the line deductions because they were basically above the line when you think about the last tax forms, and that's a term that would be comparing and contrasting that to the other types of deductions, which would be the standard deduction and the itemized deductions, which would then be called below the line deductions. Kind of an old term now, but it's not that old because the changes took place basically last year, so you're probably going to hear a lot of people that are used to that term still saying it. These deductions are now on Schedule 1, so they might be called Schedule 1 type of deductions as well. So be aware of that. That might be some new terminology that you could try to start putting those in place if you want to coin the term in your office and go Schedule 1 deductions now. But in any case, there's a comparison between the deductions up here and the itemized deductions or standard deductions. So the most common deductions that most people are aware of, that they know of, charitable deductions, medical deduction, and so on and so forth, those are the itemized deductions down here. And they have a limitation on them in that they need to be greater than the standard deduction. The less well-known and the deductions that maybe don't apply to as many people are going to be the deductions that are going to be up here above the line deductions, Schedule 1 deductions or adjustments to income. The most popular or the most common or well-known one, the one that you're always going to ask about if it's applicable, will typically be one for an IRA. So an IRA retirement account will be here, and you'll have that above the line type of deduction. The benefit about these deductions up top is if you qualify for these, you do not have this kind of restriction you have down here, this confusion down here, where you have to say, well, the itemized deductions, you get those if the itemized deductions are greater than the standard deduction. Otherwise, it might not be worth you picking up or getting this information because it's only going to be beneficial to you if it happens to be higher than the standard deduction. Up here, if you qualify for it, then it's worth getting. It'll be worth looking into because you're going to basically have the deduction up top and you don't have to compare it to basically a standard deduction. That's why most tax preparation, if there's anything that you don't see a retirement plan being contributed to in some way, shape, or form, typically you're going to ask the question, have you put money into an IRA account, or would you consider putting money into an IRA account? Because that's going to be one of the major things up top that can be affected. So the deduction will be on line 8A on the first page of the 1040. These are adjustments to income from Schedule 1. And just like with our Excel worksheet here, when we think about this line item, we can then support that information with the supporting document. So the supporting document, something like this, which would then feed into that line. And this is a fairly recent change, basically last year change, where this has been moved then from having these items on the actual 1040 to another schedule, that schedule being the Schedule 1, changing what might be the name of it, of above the line deductions, to the Schedule 1 deductions. So here's our Schedule 1. We saw last time that in Part 1, some of the additional income items are reported in the top part of the Schedule 1. Then in the bottom part, we have the adjustments to income. So we have the adjustments to income. In this example, we have the $2,000 for the IRA deduction. You can see they're adding up to the $2,000 here. And then on page 1, we have the $2,000 then carrying forward to page 1, having the effect on the taxable income. So the taxable income, we're saying $20,000 of income. We had the $2,000 above the line or Schedule 1 deductions, and that adjusts the adjusted gross income, which is a subtotal until we get to the taxable income. Then we have either the itemized deductions or the standard deduction. We're taking the standard deduction here, which is more typical these days because after the changes to the law last year, it's higher. Therefore, more people will not qualify for the itemized deduction and will be taking the standard deduction, and that'll give us to our taxable income. So we're concentrating here on line 8A.